In 2017, according to the latest World Bank data, it's actually cheaper to move $200 from the United States all the way across the Atlantic to Kenya than it is to move the exact same amount of money from South Africa, which is much closer to Kenya. Expensive, slow, fragmented payment systems are one key barrier to inter-African trade, which doesn't get enough attention from regulators, even from us in the media. One proposed solution is to push for common payment standards and to make all payment service providers make their APIs open by default. EU rules on that effect take place in January next year. So should regulators here in Africa follow suit? That's a question I put to the chair of the Global Payments Jury, John Chaplin.
So I think at the moment a lot of people would think the EU route is very interesting. I think a lot of regulators around the world are waiting to see whether the EU have got it right. I think the biggest issue they'd be concerned about is whether there's some security implications of the approach they're taking. So my feeling is that here in Africa, what a lot of the regulators will do is hold back for a year or two to see how it goes. I think if it works well in Europe, then I think that they will follow, because it's a logical direction for people to go down. And you can't have hundreds of different APIs across the place. You need standardization. So I think it's a question of let Europe work it out, work the bugs out, and then I think we'll see it over here as well.
What about the problem of intra-African payments? Because moving cash across borders on this continent is an absolute nightmare. I mean, what based on the experience among your jury that wrote this report, what is it that holds African countries back? Why is it so difficult to move money across borders?
I mean, there has been some focus on it, but sort of my own experience is that the focus is on moving money from Europe, from the US, from Asia into Africa or out the other way for paying suppliers, etc. I don't think anybody's really focused on the intra-African business. So people talk about international payments and they immediately talk about moving dollars from New York to Nigeria or to Kenya. And I think that for the continent to achieve its potential, and you can say it's a bit trite, but there has got to be cross-Africa trade. There's got to be, and that needs cross-Africa payment systems. And I think all the jury is saying is they don't work. A little bit of card works. There's a minute amount of mobile money that works across border. But it's going to take cooperation. Immediately you get a group of perhaps central banks together, it becomes political. And we end up with like a United Nations approach, which probably isn't going to work either. I mean, I think if somebody had the patience, I think there's the opportunity for private capital to come in here and do something.
But what about companies like Flutterwave and Paysafe? I mean, they've done a fantastic job in Nigeria making payments a lot easier, especially for businesses to actually get money moving around. And they're doing interesting things on the tech side, but does that have potential to then move up to scale and become perhaps a continental solution?
I think I've got a lot of admiration for what people like Flutterwave have done in Nigeria. In fact, it's not that unique. They're following the route that companies like Stripe did in the USA. I mean, if you're a small trader and you want to take electronic payments, it doesn't matter whether it's cards or mobile money, it's complicated, it's difficult. You have to jump through so many hurdles, you have to set up the systems. And all they've done really is made it simple. You allow people to go and transact. You're not supposed to be putting hurdles in front of them. You're supposed to be saying, open the door and come in and do business with me. So I think that there'll be more companies like that. Some will come, some will go as well, because I mean, it's quite difficult to create sustainable models in that place. You've got to get to scale quite quickly. So I don't know whether Flutterwave will do that. Just being in Nigeria probably won't be enough for them. And that means to expand, they're going to need serious capital. And serious capital for payments in Africa is a big issue.